Royals are 1 for 9 with a runner in scoring position. Line, fair ball! Down into the corner. Isbell to third. Isbell is on his way home. They are relentless.
It was so good I had to play it twice. Michael Garcia with a walk-off double yesterday, scoring 2 runs and giving the Royals a 4-3 win over the Yankees. It was a roller coaster of emotions in the game based on what was happening on the field with the players and also manager Matt Quatraro. And then the walk-off, it was an outstanding start to the game by pitcher Alec Marsh, and then the Yankees took a lead, the walk-off. But we're going to go over all that coming up here in this show today on the Sports Ticket, brought to you by Keefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit. They're your home team for fast and friendly auto repair. You can also find them at KeeferBrothers.com. Again, welcome into the Sports Ticket. We'll talk about the Royals and their win over the Yankees to salvage the final game of a 4-game series and avoid a 4-game sweep there at the hands of New York at Kauffman Stadium. And they're headed off to L.A. to start a series tonight. More on that. We're going to talk about the Kansas State High School Activities Association here toward the beginning of the show and go over some of the changes that have been made in postseason, because this is something that will affect a lot of local teams, and there's a lot of things that are good about this that will change some things, and there's still people complaining that it's not perfect and they didn't get it all right. Well, listen, Sometimes you got to take baby steps to get where you're at and be happy about some of these changes that are happening that probably should have taken place 20 years ago in some cases, or some things that should have never been changed based on what I understand. But we'll talk about that. Also, the Big 12 is considering selling naming rights for their conference, for the actual name of the conference, not for like the Big 12 championship game brought to you by Dr. Pepper, things like that. Not for... This is Big 12 football on Fox, brought to you by Nokia or whatever, back in the day. Nokia is not a real thing anymore. That's just an example. I don't think Nokia is a real thing anymore. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But anyway, Big 12 is considering naming rights for their conference, and we'll talk about the sponsor that seems to be at the head of the pack right now for that. Also, the NHL Stanley Cup Finals continue on Thursday night. Tonight, the NBA Finals pick back up. The U.S. Open is underway in golf round 2 today, and the College World Series starts today as well. So we're going to cover all that here. A lot of things to talk about on a Sports Ticket show here today, as we'll get to all of that and tell you about what's happening with those things here in sports. But we're going to start again with some changes in postseason events in a few different sports here that are going to affect some area teams and schools and things of that nature, athletes moving forward. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to read this statement from Kshsaa, the story from the Kansas State High School Activities Association. We'll go through all of this, and then I'll kind of break down points after I read all of it, because there are different sports that are affected by this. So Kshsaa has announced that changes to postseason formats and championship sites for basketball, football, wrestling, and track and field highlight actions that were approved June 12th and 13th at the Kshsaa Executive Board meeting. The postseason formats are set by the Kshsaa Executive Board each year. In basketball, beginning in March of 2026, it'll be not this next season, but the season after that, the state basketball tournaments will be moving to 4 total sites. 4 facilities will play host to the 7 classifications, 14 championships by honoring the Kshsaa membership voted in the fall of 2023 to qualify 8 boys teams and 8 girls teams involved at the final site. Modifications to the daily schedule will be developed. The schedule and other event details, including classification designations for each site and venue, will be determined and announced following the 2024-25 basketball season. Another basketball postseason change effective with the 2024-25 season. So this is coming up this next season. Will come at the 3A, 2A, 1A Division 1 and 1A Division 2 classifications. Each class will be divided into 4 regions and then seeded into 2 substates within the region. Substate A we'll have 1, 4, 5, 8, 9, 12, 13, and 16 seeds. Substate B will have 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, 11, 14, and 15 seeds. The winner of each substate will advance to the state basketball tournament. Further format details and dates will be sent to member schools. This is the model used for 6A, 5A, and 4A already. It is 2 substates on each the east and west side, so 4 total substates, or 4 regions, I guess, is what you call it. So 2 on the east side, 2 on the west side. They'll kind of divvy that out a lot like what they do with the substate assignments, is based kind of on location, but now you have 2 regions where 16 teams will be placed over here, 16 will be placed over here. I would guess that the quarterfinals take place first, and then the rest of it will be seeded after that, which could get difficult. I don't know the whole format yet, and we'll talk about that coming up momentarily. Football, as announced in January, the state football championships will be moving to 3 sites, with 3 games being played at each site. The executive board approved the following sites and schedule for 2024. Emporia State University will be hosting Class 6A, 5A, and 4A. The 6A championship will be Friday, November 29th at 2 p.m., 4A championship Saturday, November 30th at 1 p.m., and the 5A state championship will be Saturday, November 30th at 7 p.m. They're trying to stagger these games if they can to let people watch more than just one in a day or a weekend, or maybe 3 in a weekend in some cases, as I'll talk about here. Hutchinson Community College will be the host at Gowan Stadium for 3A, 2A, and 1A. The 2A state championship will be Friday, November 29th at 6 p.m., so that'll be like Beloit's classification. If they play in the state championship, it would be on a Friday night this year, 6 o'clock, November 29th. This is all Thanksgiving weekend, by the way, too. Class 3A would be Saturday, November 30th at 12 o'clock in Hutchinson at noon, and then 1A Saturday, November 30th at 5 p.m. in Hutchinson. All of the 8 and 6-player state championship games will be at Kiowa County High School in Greensburg. I know they have great facilities. The interesting thing for me is I don't know what the media setup will be like, but I got to be completely honest with you. I'm just glad it's not in Newton anymore. I actually love Newton. My family lives there. I have a sister and brother-in-law and 3 nephews that live in Newton. I enjoy going to Newton, but they do not know how to set up for media for a state championship contest. So I'm just glad it's moving from there. I hate throwing that shade at Newton, but they're trying to put us in the second level to do a radio broadcast, and then they have newspaper people on the first level or the second row behind the front row, where newspaper people just need to watch the game. They don't need to be looking at the scoreboard and clock all the time. And when you're on the second row, the scoreboard and clock is obstructed. And so I'm just glad it's moving from Newton. Let's just put it that way. Kiowa County High School in Greensburg will be hosting. All 3 of those games will be Saturday, November 30th. They'll start with the Division II game at 11 o'clock. The 8-man Division II, 6-man or 6 players, what Kshsaa calls it, will be at 3 o'clock Saturday, November 30th in the afternoon. And the 8-man Division I championship will be a 7 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night, November 30th. The only bad thing about all this is it is college football, and staggering all this, it makes a full day. You might miss some of those last weekend college football games, but again, these are state championships, so you'll figure it out which one's more important to you. If you have your own team playing in it or your own school, probably going to go check that out, I would imagine. So, again, those are the sites for state football. Wrestling changes. Girls wrestling will now include 4 classes to mirror the boys' classification designations. The addition of another class for girls wrestling necessitates the addition of another championship site. 6A, 5A, 4A, and 3-2-1A will each have their own site to determine a champion. 3-2-1A wrestling will be in Hayes. 4A will be in Salina. Park City Arena and one other facility to be named later will host either 6A or 5A. State sites and regional dates will be determined at the Kshsaa September Executive Board meeting. The state wrestling tournament will take place February 28th through March 1st of 2025. Also, this was a point of contention, and it was a hot-button issue at Beloit's regional track and field meet this year in Class 3A, where I think it was the top 7 in the shot put would have made it to state if they that's how it played out. But in the end, that's not how it plays out. You get the top 4 from each regional that go to state. And the now old system coming up, qualification for the state meet was adjusted to now be the top 3 at each regional, plus the 4 next best regional performances in each event. I'm definitely going to touch upon this coming up here momentarily. I'm going to kind of go in order of how this is distributed by Kshsaa. Wrapping up other items of note, 2 committees will be formed to gather input from membership school leaders. One to discuss the details behind the implementation of esports prior to the possible adoption of a Kshsaa-sanctioned activity. The second committee will review the Kshsaa calendar to consider alternatives to postseason dates within each season of activity. I don't know what that means on alternative dates. Guess we'll find out as we move forward. Again, there's a lot there. There are a lot of different things that were changed. So you got football, basketball, wrestling, and track and field changes that are going on. I'll start again with basketball because that's where they started. And their first point of contention was beginning March of 2026. State basketball tournaments will be moving to 4 total sites. 4 facilities will play host to 7 classifications. So I would guess that I'm trying to do, I can't do that math in my head. 14 championships would be hosted at 4 facilities. So if you do, I guess 6A at one place, 5A at one place. No, you have 6 and 5A probably at one place, 4 and 3A at one place. I don't know how you do that. How you're going to separate it into 4 facilities with 7 classifications. So I would imagine both the 1A schools are going to be at the same spot. By the way, state basketball sites for this coming year were announced earlier, actually at the end of last week. I'm trying to find that real quick. And, so state basketball sites, by the way, coming up for next year that have been announced. 6A is at Wichita State at Coke Arena. 5A is Emporia Parks and Recreation, hosting that at White Auditorium. 4A is at Tony's Pizza Event Center in Solana. 3A will be at Hutchinson Community College at the Sports Arena. 2A is back in Manhattan at Bramlage Coliseum. 1A Division 1 will be at Dodge City again at the United Wireless Arena. And then 1A Division 2 will be at Colby Event Center in Colby. 1A Division 1 was at Colby this year. 2A was at Dodge. And D2 was at Barton at Great Bend. So Barton is not a part of this new rotation of state basketball tournament hosts. I would guess I was totally wrong on the football thing. I really thought that the 8-man, 6-man stuff would be at Dodge City. It is still in Southwest Kansas there at Greensburg. But if I was going to make a guess, I would bet that the 4 sites that are going to be used for moving forward for basketball would be Emporia, Solana, Hutchinson, and Dodge City. Those would be the 4 that I would guess. I want to say Manhattan, Bramlage Coliseum is fun. They've hosted 2A most every year. Again, last year they had a conflict and couldn't do that because of senior day at K-State. But I think when you're looking at that, it eliminates the hassle of possibly having to change that again because the schedule's different for K-State than it is for college hoops, or for high school hoops, excuse me. So if I was going to guess the 4 sites now as we turn back to the new changes that were announced, I would probably say Emporia, Solana, Hutchinson, Dodge City. Listen, Dodge City's got it. People might not like going there, but I'm going to tell you right now, Dodge City needs to be a part of basketball, volleyball, all the state activities. There's nobody that I've ever been with, no event that I've been to, no venue that I've been to that does it better than Dodge City. I'm not saying there's not some that might do it just as good, but there is nobody that does the media part of it, the organizational part of it, the making you feel like they want you there part of it. There's a small town out in western Kansas that's not really a small town, it's growing anyway, but that was not real good at making you feel like they wanted you there. We'll just put it that way. From my experience with basketball and volleyball. I'm not saying that they weren't good hosts, that they didn't put things together the right way and do the right things. They just were not like, okay, yeah, we're glad you're here type people. And Dodge City is that. We are glad you're here type people. They put forth an effort when they first got 1A basketball to make sure everybody knew that they wanted those people there. And Dodge City has to be a part of all this. I don't care if it's way down in Southwest Kansas, out of the range of everything that you feel like, and you have to travel from, like Hanover and Axe to get it. Those are long trips to go down to Dodge City. That's the absolute only downfall of Dodge City, is that it is way out there for most people. Now, if you're from Southwest Kansas, like the Spearvilles, the Greensburg, Kiowa County, the Mineolas of the world, they're fine with it, right? If they make it state, hey, that's great. South Gray, they're like, oh, we play here in our league tournament every year. Let's keep coming here. But I really feel like Dodge City needs to be at least one of the 4 facilities that will play host to 7 classifications. Doing that math in my head, if you have 2 at 3 places, that'd be 6, and then 1 at 1 place would be 7. So I would guess one spot's only going to have 1 state championship, and I would think that would probably be an upper division a 6A would be by themselves. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would think 6A probably by themselves, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, and then the 2 1A division places. For the love of God, for media, if you're going to do this, put the 1A schools together in one spot, D1 and D2. That's all I'm really asking. I don't want you to do 6A, 5, like what happens with volleyball. 6A, 5A at one spot, 3A, 4A at one spot, 2A, 1A, D1 at one spot, and then 1A, D2 is just off in its own place. I can so see them doing that. Putting 1A, D2 at Emporia, and then 2A, 1A, D1 at Dodge City, 3A, 4A at Hutch, and 5A, 6A at, what was the last spot that I said? No, I can't remember. At Salina, or something like that, right? For moving forward, if I'm going to cover it, I just really hope that both of the 1A state tournaments are going to be at the same spot, because that makes things a heck of a lot easier for people like us that cover lower division schools. But let's be honest, Kshsaa probably doesn't care about what I think, right? They usually don't. I'm just saying that. So, again, there will be some changes. 4 facilities playing host to 7 classifications, 14 state championships in basketball. That will be in March of 2026. So there's another year, like we mentioned, where the sites will be coming up this next year, and then after that, things will change. Now, the big change is the basketball postseason change, effective 2024-25. Again, 3A, 2A, 1AD1, and 1AD2 classifications. It'll be the same setup as far as the region and sub-state portion of this thing as 6A, 5A, and 4A. The issue that you have with this is if your sub-state A has 1 through 16, sub-state B has, or sub-state A has 1, 4, 5, 8, 9, 12, 13, 16. Sub-state B has 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, 11, 14, and 15. And that would be, so that means there's 16 teams, 4 regions. Oh, no, this will be the same format. I have to dive in. Math is not my strong suit of trying to separate all this. So if you have 4 regions that are seeded into 2 substates, so each region will have 1 through 16. So that's 64 teams that are enough to fill out those regions, right? So it'll be 2 substates, just kind of like you would normally have. But the substates will be 1 through 16 now instead of 1 through 8, right? So 1 through 16, 2 different substates that'll be rotated around on all that. So 4 regions with 2 substates within the region. So, yeah, there'd be 8 spots that'll be up for grabs. And the winners of each substate, substate A, substate B, at each region would make it to state. So in the end, there's still 8 that make it to state. Now, you're still going to have those substates in like 1A Division 1 and 2 where there's not 64 teams in each classification. So there'll be some buys that are involved in that, and some first round quarterfinal, what you would call in the old system, and it would stay that way in the new system. It's just seeding, and it's a different way to do this instead of having just straight up regions based on location that are deciding where everybody's going. Now you've got a better opportunity to maybe get the best teams to state. Now, I don't know if this is going to be taken care of with the region situation the way maybe it should. But at least it gives you an opportunity to, separate those regions a little bit more, place them on brackets as a seed, and it changes up a little bit to where, you're not having, well, an example like Hanover and Frankfurt girls both won state last year. That's not a good example because they're in different classes. That's my bad. Let's say Hanover or Frankfurt and Centralia, right? Go through the season. One's 21-2, the other's 22-1, and they have to be in the same substate. Well, in this situation, they'll be seeded differently, and they may be in the same region, but there's less of a possibility that they would play each other, and maybe a better chance for both of those teams to make it to state. It's basically just a roundabout way of changing it back to kind of like the regional system was, except you're now seeding and putting them in different spots on the bracket. So this is a very similar model to what 6, 5A, and 4A do. The difference there is there's only 32 schools. There are actually 36 schools in all of those classifications, and the bottom 2 from the East and West, respectively, don't even make the sub-state. They're kept out. I know that because my nephew's team one year was kept out, and they had to play a meaningless game in Emporia at the end of the year just to get their last game in. It was the weirdest thing in the world. I think they ended up winning it, but yeah, it's a similar format there. It'll be way easier to discuss it once the whole format comes out and we understand what it is, but this is a step in the right direction of moving away from just putting all the teams that are in the same region in the same sub-state, and then you can avoid having like Beloit in the same sub-state as Silver Lake in volleyball or not volleyball. This is a basketball discussion, but like last year, Silver Lake was 22-1 and Beloit was 22-1 going in. Likely not going to be in the same sub-state with records that good. Now, there's still going to be issues with that because there's going to be a lot of lofty records that would then still go on coin flips, and you might get placed as a 4 seed on the bracket with a 1 seed that you don't want to be a part of their sub-state. So again, it's not perfect. It's not going to fix all of that issue, because you still are separating this into 4 basically regionals like you used to, but these sub-states will change a little bit based on seeding, and there's a better chance for the higher record teams to come out of there. But this doesn't account for strength of schedule. This doesn't account for anything else really, other than trying to split it up based on record and giving better chances for teams with glossier records to make it to state, and teams with lower tier records to not make it to state. It does help in that area, but I don't think that, if you have a coin flip with, let's say, example, Hanover is 23-0, there's 2 other teams that are 23-0, and then let's say, or there's 3 other teams that are 23-0. Say one of those is Lebo, say one of those is St. Paul, let's say one of those is Crest. That's probably not possible because St. Paul and Crest are in the same league. But you get my point here. If 3 teams are 23 or 4 teams are 23-0, somebody's got to be the 4 seed, right? So maybe Hanover's the number 1 seed at 23-0, and then Lebo's 23-0, and you know that they're like probably the second best team or the best team. I'm talking girls basketball because Hanover and Lebo have played for the state championship the last 2 years in a row. But let's say they both get put in the same sub-state or same region, and in sub-state A, again, you got the number 1 and number 4 seeds. Well, you're going to have a 23-0 team. Let's say Hanover wins all the flips, and they're the number 1 seed. St. Paul and Crest are probably not as good of teams because they don't play as strong of a schedule. And then Lebo comes in and gets the 4 seed at 23-0 because St. Paul and Crest won the flips. So that's an idea of what I'm talking about, where you might fix some of the issue here, but you're still going to have a sub-state. And those aren't going to be the teams in a sub-state. Hanover's probably not going to be in the same sub-state as Lebo or the same region. But it's just an example of what could happen in the new system where, yeah, you're fixing things, but you're not accounting for strength of schedule. You're not accounting for like wild card points like what Nebraska does with some possibilities for at-large berths in the state championship tournament and things like that. So it will help with keeping the records, the higher records at the top of the brackets, and splitting that up into 2 sub-states will definitely help probably get a pretty glossy record in most cases to the state tournament, to where you're not going to have, a 7-13 team at state. It's probably not going to happen, but it's still not going to solve all the issues of maybe some of the teams need to be in different sub-states and in different spots, because the TVL is still going to be in the same region. It'll just be split into 2 sub-states. So there might be 6 teams that could come out of those 2 sub-states that are good enough to be state caliber, qualifying teams. So on paper, it looks good, and it's on paper, I think it is better than the system that we have right now, but there's still going to be some issues with where everybody's placed as far as the regional part of that is concerned in basketball. All right, football, as we said, as announced in January, state football championships will be moving to 3 sites, 3 games being played at each site. Executive board approved, again, Emporia State to host 6A, 5A, and 4A, Hutchinson 3A, 2A, and 1A, and Kiowa County High School in Greensburg to host Division 1 and 2 8-man and also 6-man. Again, all those games will be on Saturday at Kiowa County High School there for 8-man and 6-man. 11 for Division 2 6-man at 3 o'clock, in Division 2 8-man at 7 o'clock that night. Well, I'll tell you what, man, if you've got some good teams in your area, there's definitely a possibility for some small market radio stations that may have a triple header that day. Just depends on who makes it to state, but plenty of 6-man teams in locations, and 8-man obviously in the small towns around the areas as well. So there's actually a very good possibility that there could be a triple header within some small market radio station around the state of Kansas that covers all those schools in their particular areas. So that'll be interesting. I do like I said, I like the staggered start. Your games on Friday are at 2 and 6. So, and Emporia and Hutch, you can just fly right down south from Emporia at 2 o'clock. If your game gets over at 4:30, get yourself to Hutch. Maybe if you can. I'm not sure how long it takes to get from Emporia to Hutch. Let's look that up, because I think that's one of the biggest things that people had a beef with in the past, was that all these games are at the same time, and you can't. It took me from, what are we doing? Oh, I'm out walking. I'm not going to walk from Emporia to Hutch. I'm going to drive. An hour and 52 minutes. Depending on which way you go, it might be a little quicker than that. Hour 52. Looks like that's the quickest trip you can make. So it might be tough to make it, but if you can get a game done in 2 hours and then get to Hutch for the 2A state championship on that Friday, November 29th, you could do that. And then you have the 4A state championship at 1 o'clock at Emporia State on that Saturday, and then the 3A at noon in Hutchinson that Saturday. And then you can stick around in Hutch if you want to at 5 o'clock game, or you can make your way back to Emporia for a 7 o'clock game in 5A if you happen to be at the 3A game, or you can stick around for all three games, 8-man and 6-man at Kiowa County there on that Saturday, November 30th. So I do like the fact that, hey, if you want to watch 4A and 5A state championships, you can just stick around in Emporia that day and see two. You can take at least 2 games in a day, basically, is what it comes down to. Even on Friday, if you book it from Emporia to Hutchinson, you might be able to maybe not get the kickoff of the 2A game if you're at 6A in Emporia and you'd want to go catch the 2A game. I like that. Ideally, you'd like to be at one location to stagger the starts for all the games so you could watch every state championship, but I don't think there's a spot really in Kansas to do that. I mean, you could probably do it and make it work at Emporia for 11-man, and then put all the 8-man at another site, 8-man, 6-man for the lower divisions there. I think this is a step in the right direction of being able to consume and take in more state championship games. I would imagine that if you're at Emporia State for the Class 4A championship at 1 o'clock on Saturday, November 30th, they'll probably ask you to leave and then come back and pay again for the 5A championship. That would be my guess based on how I know Kshsaa works. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Wrestling, there's not a lot of changes here, but there is for girls wrestling. Again, they'll have the same amount of classifications as the boys now. It'll be 6A, 5A, 4A, and 3-2-1A. It used to just be 6, 5, and 4 through 1A were the classifications, but now we have 6, 5, 4A, and 3-2-1A. Girls wrestling continues to grow, and there's nothing but good about that. I think it's more opportunities for female athletes in the state of Kansas to do something during the winter, and if they're not big basketball fans and didn't want to be out and they don't go out for basketball, and maybe they are wrestling fans and want to do something, try something different, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know there's probably some girls basketball coaches that maybe lost some athletes that they're not happy about, but otherwise, it is an opportunity here for the girls to continue to grow their sport. And I think good news for most of the people that are used to it is 3-2-1A state wrestling is moving back to Hayes this year for the girls and boys. The state wrestling tournaments will take place February 28th through March 1st. 4A will be in Salina, as it has been, and then Park City Arena and another site will be named for 6A and 5A. Park City Arena, by the way, used to be called Hartman Arena, if you're wondering what that is. It's still that same place right off of the interstate there in Park City, but it's now called Park City Arena. So wrestling, again, not a lot of changes, and like I said, I think that folks are happy to be back at Hayes for 3-2-1A. So basically all of our area will be competing in 3-2-1A wrestling if they make it to state at Hayes February 28th through and March 1st of 2025. All right, here's the big point of contention, and I need to I got to pull this up because it's just let me make sure I can find where I know where I need to look for this. And it's best to go to ncksports.com probably to do so. So I need news, not schedules. It's going to help me figure out where I need to go if I don't go to the news section. Track and field there's been some changes here for qualification for state, and I've seen this at more than just Beloit, but I'm going to use Beloit this past year as an example. There were two events definitely that were just simply loaded at regional track and field at Beloit this year in Class 3. That was a girls' high jump where Eliana Smith of Southeast Saline had a 5.8 mark. 5.4, 5.2, and 5.2 were the ones that made it to state. You hit 5 foot and you didn't make it to state. And I know a league champion that was there from Colby that finished in a tie for 7th because of the talent that was at this meet in that 3A girls' high jump. But the biggest point of contention was boys' shot put. The top 6 throwers in the boys' shot put all threw over 50 foot. And when you look at, how that all played out, I don't think I can find probably the performance list anymore for state track and field. Maybe I can. Let me check. It'll make this a lot easier for me if I could. Hey, actually, there is a boys' performance list here, so maybe I'll get lucky. Let's check out 3A boys shot put. Okay, yeah, so I do have it. It's not separated by regionals, but 51.2.5 would have been the cutoff at 10. So let me look at the top 7, based on marks, the top 7 should have made it to state from regionals in this new system. I don't have all the regional finishes in front of me of how that all played out. But basically, here's what the new rule is. Qualification for the state track and field meet adjusted to now be the top 3. At each regional, there'll be 4 regionals just like there has been, and then the next 4 best regional performances in each event. So they take top 3. The only bad thing about this is covering it from a media perspective would be that you're not really going to know until every regional is finished if that certain person made it to state. So basically what we're going to have to say is, hey, top 3 are going to state, and as I'm thinking about this, it's obviously a better situation for more people to make state if they had a better day or better throws throughout the year or whatever that might be. But I don't like it for the pure fact that I'm not going to know until late that night or maybe even the next day if the 4th, 5th, 6th from each regional made it to state. You just got to wait. So that is the fun thing about covering regionals is that you can say, hey, this was a state qualifier. We're not going to complain about that. I'm talking a lot about this Kshsaa stuff because these things mean a lot to a lot of people. And the track and field thing, people were up in arms. The 3A regional at Beloit was unbelievably stacked in the shot put. And Eli Johnson won it through 59.8.5. Second place at the regional was 59.6. 53.6 finished in third place, and that was Brody Boudreaux qualifying for state. 53.5.5 qualified for state at number 4. And Brody Litton threw 52.1 for Beloit and did not qualify for state because they take the top 4. Now, to give you an idea of where Brody Litton would have been on this list, he'd have been in 6th place, because he would have qualified for state in the new system, because that mark is good enough to put him to state at 52, and then or 52 plus, and then the next one at 50'5" would have made it to state, and it appears that 48 and 1/2 inch would have made it to state as well. So it looks like the top 7 would have made it to state in that event. You can only take 4. This is the way it is. I talked with Coach Isbell. I said, has anybody ever thrown 52 and not made it to state for you at the shot put? And he said no. He's like, one year we had a kid win it throwing 52 at state. He won state throwing 52. And we have a 52-1 that did not make it to state. And I know that Beloit definitely put their hand in that to try to get this changed. And so it is changed now. Top 3 at each regional will make it to state, and then you'll take the next 4 best marks or times or jumps or throws or whatever it is, right? That's the new system. And so, listen, I just want to – nobody's ever going to be perfect on all this, right? And so people are going to complain about this. And so I've seen a lot of talk about this on social media, the track and field thing in particular and in specific. And, one of the things that I've seen from multiple different people is that it's basically calling to get rid of regionals. Because if you do it like this, why would you even have a regional meet? And so what I've seen is a lot of people, I guess it's a last chance to hit a mark, but that doesn't mean anything other than, are you going to hit that mark? And then now we've all got to figure out, hey, did they hit the mark? Did they not hit the mark? Are they going to make it, or are they not going to make it? But basically what people are saying is they should have a mark throughout the year. And it's a similar concept with Sand Greens golf in the state, right? If you hit a 95, and I think you have to participate in 3 or more events, but if you participate in 3 or more events through the season, and I'm not 100% on that point of it, but if you shoot a 95 at any point during that season, I think it is if you participate in 3 or more events, if you shoot a 95, that's a qualifying score and you're automatically into the state tournament or the state meet. Now, there's no regionals in Sand Greens golf, and that's why they do that. So it's kind of the same concept that people are talking about here, is basically average out the top 4 state from the year before, and in every event, which by the way, that's 18 events, average it out, and if you hit the qualifying mark of the average, you automatically if you hit the mark of that average of the top 4 or 6 or whatever it might be, I don't know what the number is, what people are proposing there in their own minds. This is not a proposal that's actually going to Kshsaa, but in their own minds, whatever they're proposing that mark should be. If it's average out of the top 6 and you get to state, or the top 10 from the year before, average it out. If you hit that mark, you make it to state. I don't know what it is, right? But I don't know if people comprehend how insanely tough that would be to do. And I'm not talking about creating the mark. Create the mark all you want. Let's use shot put, right? We averaged out that shot put, the top 4 or 10, let's say top 10, we averaged out in the state last year is 47.10.5. Okay? If you hit that mark at any point throughout the year in your classification, in your specific event, you're on to state. 47.10.5. If you hit 47.10.5 or better, you've automatically qualified for state. That's the basic gist of what people are proposing in their own minds on that. Again, this is not a Kshsaa proposal, and I don't think ever will be, to be completely honest with you, unless Kshsaa changes the way they hold the state track and field meet. Because here's the thing. The one big thing that Kshsaa prides itself on is that they have all of their athletes in one venue for the state track and field championships. So what you have right now is 16 athletes that are entered for 18 events at every classification, which is 1A boys, 1A girls, 2A boys, 2A girls, 3A boys, 3A girls, 4A boys, 4A girls, 5A boys, 5A girls, 6A boys, 6A girls. Okay, that's 12 times 16. That's 216 total events that you want to get done in 2 days. And with track events, 16 is a great cap, because on prelims, what do we have? We have an 8-lane track. On prelims, boom, 1 prelim, boom, 2nd prelim, you're done with that classification. Let's say you set a mark in the 100-meter dash that you have to hit. Let me look at the there's a lot of things that you cover, so the times may not be always in my mind. So let's say in the 100-meter dash on the girls' side, this is 3A regional at Beloit, so the top time was 12:66. Actually, it was in prelims. So let me go back and get the 100-meter finals. Top time 12:37. Bottom time 13:40. So let's take top 10. Let's average that out. Let's say if you hit 13:60, you are qualified for state. That's the average of the top 10 or whatever number you want to put on it. What happens when 23 girls have hit 16 or 13:60, the qualifying mark? You have now added another heat to that classification. And how many times are you going to do that throughout? Maybe there's only going to be 12 that are going to make the state meet with their qualifying time. Maybe there's going to be 23. Maybe there's going to be 17, and maybe there's going to be 9. Yeah, maybe there's going to be 17. Are you going to put one girl out there to run a heat? Probably not. You're going to have to split that up, but you're still going to have to run 3 heats just because one extra person made it to state. listen, the system might not be perfect, but when you're holding a track meet with 6 classifications, meaning boys and girls in both classifications, so 12 separate divisions, comes out to 216 total events. You're not going to be able to get that done in 2 days. I can promise you that. They have a hard time getting that done in 2 days the way it is, with 16 qualified in each of them. So now let's say 23 people qualified for the shot put. Or, again, there may be some classifications where 11 people qualify for the shot put based on your qualifying mark, and basically saying regionals don't even mean anything other than another chance to get a mark. It's not really even how you place at that regional, whether you make it to state or not. So I think listen, I don't mind people coming up with ideas and throwing them out there, but the thought process has to be thought through, right? Like, you just can't automatically do that and put 24 kids in imagine that, right? Like, say there's 25 kids that qualify. Now you got to run 4 heats in a 100-meter dash or something of that nature. There needs to be some kind of structure and some semblance of, obviously, you got to cap the entries. You can't just be, this is not nationals, and that's basically what they're basing this concept off of, is NCAA nationals. You get a qualifying mark and then you make it to nationals. You just, technically, I think your qualifying mark makes it to the qualifying part of the meet, and then you qualify at your qualifier, which is kind of like a regional, to get to nationals. So, yeah, it's a good concept in theory, but in actual application and doing it, you better get prepared for a 3-day state track and field meet if that's what you want, if that's the way you want to do it, because there's going to be more than 16 in some of these events that make it to state. So you're going to have 3 heats in some of these prelims on the track. You're going to have to run 3 flights in some of the field events. They're going to, narrow it down to 9 people that are left. So I know that you want to fix things and you want to make things better for everybody, but that's probably not the way to do it. Kshsaa made a lot of changes. I spent a lot of time on that, but I know a lot of people are interested in all that. If you want to read all that, again, ncksports.com has a link there, and you can find it all out. We're going to take a break here on the Sports Ticket, brought to you by Kiever Brothers Automotive, and we'll finish up with the Royals, talk about the Big 12 possible naming rights, NHL Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, U.S. Open, College World Series starts today as well. Still a lot to get to. That was a lot with local, and we'll continue on the Sports Ticket.
I'm Elijah at Kiever Brothers Automotive in Beloit. Did you know that we sell tires? We also perform alignments and all the other services that go along with them. We handle all the top brands. Extras like road hazard warranty, complimentary tire rotations, and complimentary tire repairs are available for purchase on most tires. Right now, we are offering $80 off when you buy a set of 4. Call or stop by Kiever Brothers Automotive for fast, friendly tire services today. Find us just south of the courthouse in Beloit or on the web at KieverBrothers.com.
I couldn't be more proud of those guys. I mean, you're down. That's a really good team with an elite closer coming in. We've talked so much about it, but I never get tired of bragging about them. The way they go about it, the way they hustle, the way they never quit. I mean, it's, I've talked about, it's inspiring to me to come to work every day to be around these guys.
Royals manager Matt Quatraro on his team coming back for a 4-3 win over the Yankees on Thursday to avoid a 4-game sweep to New York. The Yankees were dominant in the middle 2 games of the series, winning 11-5 Wednesday, 10-1 on Tuesday. They won 4-2 on Monday. The Royals snapped a 4-game losing streak with that 4-3 win. And what a roller coaster it was. Matt Quatraro liked the fight his team had coming back to get the win in the ninth inning. He wasn't there to see it, but he loved the fight. More on that here coming up momentarily. But, man, as I'm saying, the roller coaster of emotions in this game, as Royals starter Alec Marsh had 6 no-hit innings to start this game and was dealing, man. He did a great job. He did have 2 walks. He struck out 7. He allowed 1 hit in the 7th. But before he allowed that hit, the Royals had taken a 2-0 lead in the 4th on a 2 RBI double from Vinny Pasquantino, and they led 2-0 going into the 8th inning. They were up 2-0 after 6, and Alec Marsh had no-hit the Yankees through 6 innings. And then in the 7th inning, there was a situation where Bobby Witt Jr. was on first. I got to double-check how many outs there were here in the top of the 7th. Excuse me, it was the bottom of the 6th, I should say. There was 1 out after Vinny Pasquantino had flat out to center. And then Bobby Witt Jr. was at first while Salvador Perez was at the plate. And he took off trying to get a stolen base, took off for second, and the throw beat him, like, big time. And he was called out. And I'm like, okay, well, must not have got a good jump on that, whatever. And then after that happens, man, I'm watching this. Matt Quattro's out of the dugout just screaming at the umpire. And I'm like, dude, he was so far out. Like, what are you mad about? And he was mad about the fact that shortstop Anthony Volpe, I think that's how you say his name, for the Yankees, had come to the bag, and his foot went sideways and covered the entire bag in front of the bag with his foot. And there's a new rule this year that is obstruction, and the runner gets the base. Whether he was going to be thrown out, whether he was going to be tagged or not, that foot came right in front of the bag and blocked Bobby Witt Jr.'s arm path and hand path to the bag. And so Matt Quattro noticed that right away, and he was quickly out of the dugout screaming and yelling at the umpire. And rightfully upset. Sometimes, that's just the way it is. They're going to go maybe a little bit overboard. But he was trying to get his point across and obviously said some words, and then clearly at some point said the magic word and got tossed out of the game. And there was a very visible bleep you from Matt Quattro after that happened. And that'll be a GIF that'll be going around the internet for sure when people need to use it and have fun with it. But Matt Quattro was thrown out of the game. Then in the top of the seventh inning, Marsh comes back in. Juan Soto gets a single to start the inning, but 3 straight outs, strikeouts of Judge, Verdugo, and then Torres flat out to center. So you're right there. You're 2-0 lead. You're still good. Alec Marsh goes 7 with 1 hit, in line for the win. Not so fast. John Schreiber comes in and allows a home run right off the bat to Anthony Rizzo to make it 2-1. And then the Yankees proceed to get 2 more runs, and they take a 3-2 lead. Royals don't get anything in the bottom of the 8th. Top of the 9th comes around, and then Holmes comes in to close it for the Yankees, which, by the way, let me look at his numbers this year because he's had a very good season as a closer for the Yankees. It was his 4th blown save. He's had some success here this year, but has also had some failures now. He is actually 1-2 this year, but let's see, saves. He's got 19 saves and 4 blown saves, and yesterday was the 4th. He has a 1.80 ERA, so that's one of his lower ones of his career. Clay Holmes came in, and the Royals were able to get some things rolling. They had runners at the corners. Maikel Garcia with the 2 RBI walk-off double to give the Royals the 4-3 win in the end. It saves them. Again, they're now 40-30. It saves them from getting a four-game sweep there at home to the Yankees. The Yankees fell to 49-22 with the loss. So, again, the Royals, a very nice comeback win yesterday. Boy, a roller coaster of emotions with a possible no-hitter, which, by the way, a Kansas City media guy tweets out, hey, Marsh has been good today. He's got a no-hitter through 6. You don't talk about it. No, you kind of joke, but you kind of don't joke about that. It's like, you don't talk about it. You can put it on social media, and then what do you know? Right after the 6th, Marsh comes out. First swing of the bat is a base hit from Juan Soto. No-hitter gone. Royals are just desperate for a no-hitter. It's been since, I think, 1990 that they had their last no-hitter. Might have been 91. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I'm not going to pull it up. I'm not going to take the time. But it's been over 30 years since the Royals have had a no-hitter. I can definitely promise you that. So, again, a great start there for Alec Marsh. In the end, the Royals come back to win yet again, and they're 10 games above 500 at 40-30. They'll take on the Dodgers coming up tonight, starting a 3-game series. Dodgers are 42-28, and headed to the mound for the Dodgers will be Gavin Stone. He's 7-2 with a 2.93 ERA. Cole Reagans will start for the Royals. He's 4-4 with a 3.08 ERA. Not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to put it out there. The Big 12 Conference reports are that the Big 12 is possibly sending out and selling their naming rights for the conference to a title sponsor. The story says the Big 12 is exploring selling its naming rights to a title sponsor, potential revenue of hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the deal. The commercial sponsor would potentially take the name Big out of the Big 12 and replace it with the sponsor's name. It could end up as one of the largest commercial deals in collegiate athletics history, not including media rights. The conference has explored this option for the past 6 months. In-depth discussions and a decision is expected in the upcoming months. A deal could mean millions of dollars annually for the conference's member schools. One sponsor that really has come to the forefront in this is Allstate. And so some of the things you're reading on Twitter about this is that it could be, again, removing like Big 12 from the name to where it could be something like the Big All-State Conference or All-State 12 Conference. I was having this discussion with some friends yesterday. It's like, if we're going to change the name of this conference, just get rid of the 12. There's not 12 schools in this conference anymore. Hasn't been for quite a while. It's been 10, it's been 14. It hasn't been 12 since, I guess there was 1 year it was 12 when Missouri left. And then the other schools left and made it 10 for a bit. And then he added the 4 last year. I think it was just ahead of last year. It made it 14. So we're talking about 12, and it hasn't been 12 for ages. So if they call this the All-State 12, listen, I hate that, by the way. I would rather it be called the All-State Big 12, All-State Big whatever, the Big All-State Conference. I mean, I'm cool with selling naming rights because this is just the way we're going. That's why you see a quick trip patch on the side of the Royals uniforms now on their sleeves, so it's shooting right at you as they're at bat, and every player that comes to the plate, unless they're a switch hitter. I don't know, maybe they have a certain like patch that they move over to the other side if they're a switch hitter that can be Velcroed and moved over to the other side. That's just the way sports are going right now. Always trying to find a way to make an extra dollar, and obviously that's why NIL exists. That's why collectives exist. That's why now colleges are being able to pay their own players from the college now in the new rules. But listen, I get it. That's where it's going. It's all driven by money and trying to figure out how you're going to get the extra money. People are saying that the Big 12 is the word for that now is poverty conference. Like they're less than everybody, right? I will tell you, if the Big 12 does this, those other Power 4 now conferences will follow suit. Somebody will be sponsoring and be a title sponsor on the SEC. You can book it. The Big 10, the ACC, the other 3 that are still here as major players will take any opportunity that they can to make that extra money, right? And the Big 12, if they make this deal, would be on par with those conferences as far as, revenue coming in. It'd be just a different way. It wouldn't be TV rights, but it'd be, naming the conference rights. So, yeah, if you're going to do this and you're going to put a number in this thing and call it the All-State whatever conference, call it the All-State 16 or the All-State Big 16 is what I would say. But, there's a lot of funny stuff that was out there yesterday. Call it What a Conference, like Whataburger would be the sponsor there. I like that better than All-State 12. They said one said the Mayhem Conference brought to you by Allstate. Hey, that's way better than the All-State 12. I'm not saying I'm in support of What a Conference or the Mayhem Conference brought to you by Allstate, but it's better than All-State 12 or Big All-State Conference. It's gross. I don't like it, but again, there's a lot of things that I have not liked that are going to happen whether I like them or not, and whether you like them or not, or whether you try to boycott them or not. So we'll keep an eye on this, and once something actually is announced, we'll definitely keep following that with the Big 12 possibly offering up, well, not possibly, it looks like probably it's inevitable that they'll give up the naming rights for the conference and make some more revenue for those 16 members of the Big 12 now.
10 seconds to go. The puck is still in the corner and cleared. And a vintage finish for the Florida Panthers. They kept the puck against the wall for much of the final seconds and hang on to defeat the Oilers 4-3 despite a valiant comeback effort.
We don't spend as much time on these last 3 topics because there's not a lot to talk about on them, or last 4 topics actually. Stanley Cup Finals, I was talking about it yesterday. If the Panthers win, it could be a very boring finish to 2 major pro sports, as in the NBA there's a 3-0 lead, and now in the NHL there's a 3-0 lead for the Florida Panthers over the Edmonton Oilers. The 1-1 tie for the first period, and actually I think it was through the first period. Let me double check that. They might have got their 1 goal in the It's already changed over. Let me go back to June 13th. Yeah, they got their one goal early in the second period, Edmonton did. But it was tied at one point. And then, it was a minute 49 into the second period. The Oilers got their first goal. And then Florida scored 3 goals in the second period to take a 4-1 lead. And it looked like they were going to just roll to the win. But the Oilers picking up a goal 6 minutes into the third. And with just over 5 minutes left, they got their second goal. Tried their best to try to tie that thing up, but couldn't in the end, as the Panthers win 4-3 and take a 3-0 lead in the best-of-7 Stanley Cup Series. No team has ever come back from 3-0 in the NHL or the NBA, so the Panthers are definitely the favorites and sitting in a very good spot to win I think their first championship. Let me double-check that as well. But the Panthers played in the finals last year and lost. But they have an opportunity here to get the title here with a 3-0 lead in the series. Game 4 will be on, they don't have any Stanley Cups. They've been in the finals 3 times, 96, 23, and now 24. And looking for their first Stanley Cup are the Florida Panthers. Again, they are 3 games up, 3-0. Game 4 will be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on ABC. So, again, that's the Panthers and Edmonton Oilers in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. The NBA Finals continue tonight as the Celtics look for their first championship since 2008, and they're on the cusp of that with a 3-0 series lead. By the way, I'm going to pick the Panthers to just finish it out. I think they'll sweep and get that win just the way the series is going right now, but maybe I'll be wrong. Celtics and Mavericks tonight, Game 4 of the NBA Finals in Dallas at American Airlines Center, 7:30 tip-off on ABC. The Celtics, again, with a 3-0 series lead. They've played so well defensively in this series against a Mavericks team that averages 118 points in the regular season and have had some big offensive games in the postseason as well. The Mavericks have yet to score and break triple digits in any game this series so far. And Game 4 tonight in Dallas, where Boston looks to get the sweep and finish off the series. They did it in Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals. They got the sweep. I think Dallas is going to come in at least inspired to keep the series alive and not get beat on their home floor tonight. They do have talent. They've got, again, this is the healthiest team that the Celtics have seen in the playoffs, and they rolled through the Western Conference and beat some good teams to get here. So I don't want to hear the excuse of, if Boston does sweep Dallas, of, they had the easiest run and they got to play all these teams, had injuries and everything like that. This Dallas team has talent, and they've been playing very, very well since mid-April, leading into the playoffs. And I'm not going to hear excuses and people trying to justify that for the second straight year, the best team in the NBA wins the championship. It just is what it is, right? They were the best team in the NBA by far, 7 games ahead of anybody in the league. At the end of the year were the Celtics, and so I don't want to hear it if they do sweep tonight that they had an easy path. Let's squash it, flush it. This was the best team in the NBA this year, but Dallas has talent, and I think they'll show up with a little pride tonight. I'm going to pick the Mavericks to win this game and force a deciding, or not deciding. They won't force a deciding game. They'll move it back to Boston, and then that's where I think Boston will win the series in Game 5 at home. But again, you don't want Dallas to get any kind of confidence here. So if they do get this win, you definitely want to squash it at home in Game 5 and finish the series off. So I'll predict Dallas to win tonight and then Boston to win on Monday night when they come back around for Game 5. All right, golf, U.S. Open at Pinehurst in North Carolina, number 2, underway with the second round today. Patrick Cantlay of the United States had the lead after one round at 5 under. He'll tee off at 12:25 today. Rory McIlroy is through 12 today, +1 today. He's 4 under through the tournament, tied for second with Ludvig Aberg of Sweden. And he's at 4 under. Xander Schauffele's at 3 under. He's 3 under today, so adding to his total, he's tied for 4th right now with Thomas Detry, Matthew Pavone, and Tyrell Hatton. Bryson DeChambeau is +1 today through 10 at 2 under par and tied for 7th, along with Tony Finau, who tees off at 12:36 here later today. If you're interested, Tiger Woods is tied for 78th. He's 4 over par, and right now would not make the projected cut. So golf, figure out a way to make this weekend special if Tiger Woods is not part of it, or if somebody you like is not part of it. Scottie Scheffler obviously is best golfer in the world right now coming in based on his ranking. And today he's 2 over par through 12. He's 3 over par for the tournament and tied for 59th. So Scottie Scheffler would have been the favorite, but it's not going well for him here in the U.S. Open in golf. I'll wrap this today with one more note. The College World Series gets underway in Omaha today, and you can find the full bracket and schedule at NCAA.com. College World Series starts at 1 o'clock this afternoon, with North Carolina at 47-14 against 46-15 Virginia, who knocked Kansas State out in the Super Regionals. And then Tennessee's 55-12. They'll take on 47-15 Florida State at 6 o'clock tonight. The second round of games in Bracket 2 tomorrow will be at 1 o'clock, with the first game Kentucky's 45-14 against 38-21 NC State, and Texas A&M 49-13 against 34-28 Florida at 6 o'clock tomorrow. They're in Omaha at Charles Schwab Field. Again, 4 ACC schools, 4 SEC schools, so nobody cares about the College World Series around here in all reality probably, but did want to update on that. And again, it is in Omaha, so not too far away from here, where teams will converge for the College World Series here in 2024. All right, I spent a lot of time, obviously, on the Kshsaa stuff. And, again, if you want to read more about the changes in postseason, things that are going on at the Kansas State High School Activities Association, check out ncksports.com. That'll wrap it up for the week here today. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Stay cool. It's definitely a hot one over the last few days, and still should be in the 90s pretty much all weekend, it looks like. So stay cool, hydrated, keep calm. Whatever you want to do, enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday here on Katy Country 94.
State, regional, and national sports talk on your schedule. The Sports Ticket Podcast. Subscribe via Apple, Google, and TuneIn Podcasts or sunflowerstateradio.com.